gentlemen, how's everybody doing? My name is Drifty Dreader. Welcome to this is the fourth interview I've done on this channel. I am with a good friend of mine, RichieMars. How are you doing? Welcome.
Doing well, Drifty. How we doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Look, man. So you are I found out your content recently, and I think you and what you do is pretty entertaining. For those who don't know what you do, and for those who want to find you, what do you do? What do you do? Like, where can they find you?
I'm available on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube for my video content, where I usually do a minute and a half, 2 minute video of like a current topic that's happening in wrestling or any topic that I just come across. And then on the flip side, I do have a podcast, Wrestling Retold and Relive with Richie Mars, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as well. And that's where I have all my other wrestling content creator friends. They pick a topic, I research it, and from there, we just have a discussion about it. Just shoot the breeze, nothing too crazy. And it's always a good time. No shouting matches, no
Right.
arguing whose opinion is right over the other. It's always just like it's a very zen feeling.
So look, man. I reached out to you. I am a pretty small creator, and look. I've always been a wrestling fan. I started watching wrestling about 2009, when NXT was a game show. So probably like 2010 ish is when I started, and then there was a time in wrestling where I just stopped. I just felt like it got like the 2016 to like the 2019 era. I took like a 3 year stop. Like, I kept up with it at YouTube, but I felt like the content got really stale. So I wanted to grow my channel. So in 2025, I kind of made a New Year's resolution. I have a YouTube channel, and it didn't really do anything. I've been almost YouTube for almost 10 years. It really didn't do anything. So I had a New Year's resolution to reach out to content creators and collab. And what better time to be a wrestling fan than right now? So I've had three guests so far, and you're the fourth one, and I'm excited. We're gonna talk wrestling. How far does your wrestling knowledge go back?
See, I started in 2003 watching wrestling, and then I would just like consistently like get like DVDs, like go on like Wikipedia, go on like different just like history like books or just biographies, autobiographies, just trying to learn as much as I can. Uh, the my friends call me the wrestling encyclopedia, but I'm just like, don't give me that nickname. That's a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah,
pressure
yeah.
because the people expect you to know a lot. But I always like try to learn as much as I can when it comes to wrestling. Because the day you think you know it all is the day you stop learning, and I never want to stop learning when it comes to wrestling and just like different stories, because there's so much like content and there's just so much just of the realm of wrestling that has yet to be uncovered. So it's an ever like evolving business, which is why I find it so interesting.
Yeah, so I used to go when I was younger, before like the WWE Network was a thing, and when wrestling was still like you had to pay for it on pay per view on cable. I would go to the local library, and I would get wrestling DVDs. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think it was the I would always get the Royal Rumble DVD, and it was the year that Undertaker won the Royal Rumble. It came out of Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker. What was that? 2006? Or no, I'm sorry.
2007.
2007. 6 was Rey Mysterio. It was 2007. Yeah. Um so look, man, I want to talk wrestling. I think, it's wrestling is such a huge thing right now. I used to be embarrassed to go to school and be like, "Oh, I'm a wrestling fan," but like it's such a big time to be a wrestling fan. And doing these past interviews, obviously the first one I was really nervous, and then to talk to people that have such a passion like I do, it's really fun. And so I want to start off with two questions. So I want to ask you, do you have, because I feel like these two questions can be divided into two categories because I think they're really big. Do you have a wrestling hot take, just a wrestling hot take in general? And then do you have a WrestleMania hot take? So like something that happened at WrestleMania that you're like, okay. And you're like, well, and a lot of people don't agree with, because I feel like having a WrestleMania hot take on its own is just pretty big too.
Right. Let's see, a wrestling hot take and a WrestleMania hot take. I'll go with the WrestleMania one first because it's something I've been saying for a little bit, and people don't agree with me. I had like one comment saying that I should feel bad for having that take. I'm like, okay. Uh, My WrestleMania hot take is at WrestleMania 34, the Charlotte Flair Asuka match. I wasn't upset about Charlotte winning. Like I think that was like a lot of people want Asuka to win, and I totally understand that. But at that time period, Charlotte was just kind of like trying to come into her own as a babyface. Now we all, I think, majority of people or majority of fans would agree that Charlotte is a better heel than she is a babyface. But if they wanted to go in that direction of Charlotte being a babyface, like that would probably be one of her biggest wins as a babyface. So it would help solidify her even further if they were going to go in that direction. Now, obviously, she kind of like, if you want to make a comparison like that John Cena Randy Orton spot where they thought Randy was going to be the headliner instead of just replace Cena and Randy with Becky and Charlotte. Charlotte's kind of like the Randy Orton of WWE in a lot of ways of the women's division. So, like, if you wanted to solidify her as a babyface, like, that would have been a fine way to do it. Wrestling hot take. Now, oof, I'm really bad at these, so I'm trying to think. A wrestling hot take is, gosh, uh,
What I'll do is I'll let you think. I'm gonna give you because so I actually pre-thought my answers, and my answers get a lot of speculation. So they're technically both WrestleMania hot takes. So like for my wrestling hot take in general, is I don't think WrestleMania 27 is as bad as what everybody thinks, and I also have WrestleMania 27 in my top 5 favorite WrestleManias of all time, and that's not due to the match card, and that's not due to the show. It's actually the first WrestleMania that I ever saw. And I, like I said, I started getting into wrestling around 2010, 2011, so I was such a Miz fan. I hated that everybody liked John Cena. Like, obviously now it's different, but back then I hated Cena. I hated how everybody loved him, and the man that back in 2011, before CM Punk was the Miz. So I was a huge Miz fan. So not knowing, with me being a kid and seeing the Miz going into WrestleMania and beating John Cena in the probably most controversial way that Miz did, just to set up a storyline for next year, it was one of my favorites. So because of that, WrestleMania 27 is in my top 5 favorites. I know that it's probably in everybody's top 5 worst. And then my other my other hot take is, in terms of the Undertaker losing his streak, I think it should have been done by somebody who is more relevant. Like, obviously back then when Brock Lesnar beat the streak, right? We were all looking at, oh, well, Brock's a big name, but now him not being in the company, I think it kind of like, damn, kind of hurts it. So if I had to choose somebody to lose to the streak with, like, obviously, so I have 3. I have Shawn Michaels at the WrestleMania 26 match. I know a lot of people say 25 is better, but I really did like their WrestleMania 26 match. Or Triple H, either at WrestleMania 27 and 28. I think those two are in the conversation for maybe like top 15 best matches of all time. And then just because of how relevant CM Punk is and how the story between The Undertaker and Punk was, I would love CM Punk to win, because CM Punk, like, especially with him coming back, is a huge name in wrestling right now.
yeah. With Brock, it's like, again, that's like with the benefit of hindsight, probably not the best person to break the streak. At that time period, you could definitely tell the difference between pre Brock Lesnar ending the streak and post Brock Lesnar ending the streak. Because if you look at Brock Lesnar's return in 2012, lost to Cena, beat Triple H, but then lost to Triple H, had that match with Punk, but he never really was like that intimidating figure,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term. Once he beat the streak, his booking completely changed, and for good reason. This is the guy who ended the streak, and for all intents and purposes, like Brock Lesnar was probably going to be set up as like almost like the Undertaker like figure for years to come, post like Undertaker's retirement. Obviously, stuff happened, and like for me, I think it would have been beneficial if it was like maybe somebody like Randy. Randy's one, I think, could have been beneficial ending the streak. Of course, at that time, probably couldn't handle the pressure, and that's the big thing about the Undertaker streak. If you choose like a name to kind of establish with it, like a younger name, a newer name, that is a lot of pressure, and very few talents could ever like break out of that. I think like if we just keep it the same, like Roman would probably the safest bet in making somebody with the streak. And I just thought of my wrestling hot take, just in general, uh, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, I think you're on the right track. Like a Shawn Michaels would have been fine. Triple H would have been fine. I This is another WrestleMania hot take. I think the end of an era match is overrated, just
Whoa,
because.
really? That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, because like if you think about it, an era didn't end. All
Right,
three of these guys wrestled after the fact,
right.
so the tagline was a lie. It's like the super kick and the pedigree hype. I agree with you. Personally, I enjoyed the WrestleMania 27 match more. I even like you said, the WrestleMania 27 pay per view in your top five WrestleManias. I think it did crack my top five worst because I was on a ranking 13 worst WrestleManias, and I think that cracked like that was my top five, and it might like it could have been higher, but it's like I enjoyed that match. I enjoyed the Punk Orton match. I thought was really good. The Cody Ray match I really enjoyed. So like there is a lot of different things, and then I'm like, originally it was like lower on my list. I'm like, this WrestleMania is not that bad, and then I just remembered the Cole and King, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna move you up a couple spots,
Yeah, and it
and
had
then it broke my top five.
yeah, and it had that awful mixed tag match with Snooki from the Jersey Shore. Yeah,
Yeah,
man. What was?
like Snooki was fine.
Yeah,
Like her performance was fine. Their time just got cut way too much.
yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but that's what happens.
So what was that wrestling hot take that you said that you had?
You don't need a lot of moves in order to be a star. Because the whole discourse with Jey Uso right now is that he has three moves. That's it. He can't be a main eventer because of that. If you think of Steve Austin post neck injury, and I'm not comparing Steve Austin to Jey Uso by any means, but with Jay's rise, it reminds me of John Cena from '05, '06. Cena didn't have many moves either, but the company's like, look, he sells merchandise. He is very popular, and people buy him in this spot in terms of him being a star. And that's what WWE looks for. They don't look for in-ring ability. Yeah, that's cool. That's great. And they seem to lean on people who with wrestling ability when they're in a down period. Look at Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels during their runs at the top. That's when they were doing the whole new generation era. But unfortunately, like their popularity wasn't big. Look at the 2010s era, where it's like we're looking at okay, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, we're looking at them, to kind of like propel that forward because they are the constant. You're never if you have a great like wrestling background or you're just a tremendous performer, you're always going to have a spot within the wrestling industry. It might not always be the top, but you're always going to have a spot down there. And I think with Jay, a lot of people didn't have a problem with his in-ring ability when he was facing against Roman, first couple times. Didn't have a problem when he was facing Braun Breaker. His moveset wasn't an issue then. So, but now since he's in that spot, won the Rumble, he's in a bigger position than he's been. Now that's when people are going to come out and say, "Oh, he doesn't deserve it. Oh, this, that, and the other thing." Similar thing happened with LA Knight when he was getting pushed up the card and he was facing Roman Reigns. It's like, "Oh, he's too old. He doesn't have enough moves. He's mid." Things like that. And I feel like if you can control the crowd, because that's the one thing people can't take away from Jey Uso, he's tremendous crowd control. There are people who are hanging on his every word. And the thing is, you could do 20 moves, you could do like 50 moves. Doesn't matter. Everyone's reacting to when Jay hits the super kick, when Jay's doing the punches, when Jay's hitting the spear, when Jay's doing the splash. Everyone is cheering it on their feet. And that's the biggest thing. And the biggest thing you can't teach with wrestling is that crowd connection. And Jay has it. Is he going to be the greatest world champion of all time if he wins? I don't know, but it's like again, Jey Uso is like he's fine in my opinion. Like I don't think he's as terrible as people think he is.
That's really funny because I do agree, and I will say this might be another hot take. I think Jey Uso's spear is very pretty when he can hit it well. Obviously, he did botch a spear against Austin Theory, like 2 weeks ago or whatever. But yeah, I agree.
I think that was like a give and take. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, just because Austin Theory like jumped up, he likes to
Yeah.
oversell. So I think it was like kind of like a miscue.
Yeah. I agree with that. Especially like I will dissect some of the things that you said, especially like when he was facing Roman. I think there's a difference between Jey Uso and the fans now than Jey Uso earlier. And what I mean by that is like when he was facing Roman, everybody wanted the guy to lose. So like if they're gonna pick, especially somebody against family, no matter who it is, yeah, of course they're gonna be like, oh, we're not gonna care about his moveset now. We just want Jay to win. Or like when Jay transitioned out of the bloodline and he came to Raw, and then he was going up against Braun Breaker, and Braun Breaker wasn't face Braun Breaker. He was coming up from NXT, and he was just a dickhead. Everybody's like, yeah, we want Jay to win, and now he wins the Intercontinental Championship, and then he loses it right back to Braun Breaker, and then now, I personally, Jay was not on my bingo card to win the Rumble, and I think that's you have a really great point there, because I think a lot of people didn't expect Jay to pull the trigger, because you have these guys like LA Knight, you have these guys like Carmelo Hayes, Braun Breaker, these newer popular stars that like I think right now is a really great example of like when the ruthless aggression area happened, when they picked random guys, we're like, we're just gonna put the title on him. I think right now it's starting to become like that, because I didn't expect Jey Uso to win the Rumble, and I didn't expect WWE to push him like they are now, but he's selling merchandise, he's super over with the crowd, and my pick was Punk, but I mean, having Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk at WrestleMania that's gonna blow the damn house down. It's not gonna have a roof because it's gonna be a stadium, so it's gonna blow the non-existent roof off the stadium. But yeah, I look. I have to think another hot take is I'm excited for Jay and Gunther. I think that they have told a pretty good story, especially when Gunther was the Intercontinental Champion. I mean, they told a story then. I think their story is getting kind of bland, but I think especially with Jimmy Uso coming in, and I heard somebody else say this, like Gunther's going to start going after family. He's going to go after Jimmy Uso, which I think is great. I think it's going to be great if he goes after Sammy. Hell, he could even go after Cody, because they were tag champs for a minute. So I think you're right. I think moves doesn't have to make a star. I don't understand the hate around Jey Uso. I like Jey Uso. So yeah, man, that is my pick at WrestleMania. I love Gunther. I love what he's doing. I love how like 75% of his career has been nothing but him holding titles, which is kind of crazy. But I'm ready for Jey Uso to do it. I want it to happen, and I'm excited.
Yeah, with Jay and Gunther, I feel like their story post WrestleMania, especially with WrestleMania being at a later date, you're gonna have some downtime, some down period, and it felt like for the longest time their feud wasn't escaping that first gear. It was just kind of the same thing week after week. With Gunther, with the chokes, the pull apart brawls, all that kind of stuff. And again, Jay is a great promo when you let him be. When you look at the bloodline stuff, look at all that stuff. He could talk with emotion. Like people want to say he's just a catchphrase, he's just this, cool, whatever. But if you look at that stuff, that's why people are connected with Jey Uso. They're connected with his journey, because the bloodline story, the person that got the most development, like that's not named Roman Reigns, is
Right.
Jey Uso.
Yeah.
And he had the most diverse story within that bloodline, because if you were to go back when that story first started and you say Jey Uso is going to have a pretty like promising singles career, everyone would have said you were nuts.
Yeah. Right.
No, and now with all that consistency, main event Jey Uso, and then the longest reigning tag champs, the story with Sammy, the story with Sammy I think really helped him a lot. And then the stuff on Raw where it's like he's not winning every match, but he is gaining traction as his own guy. And then when the whole Yeet stuff came over, the Mania match with Jimmy, which we don't talk about. But again, it's one of those unfortunate things that it's like, sometimes you're just gonna have a stinker. That is, but it's like people usually point to that match and the SummerSlam match with Roman as like that's why he can't be the main event. I'm just like, I can pick out like many main event stars
Right.
like who've had terrible matches.
Yeah.
Like Roman. Look at like Roman, like Roman's reign as the big dog. like out of all his matches with Brock Lesnar, I can think of two that were awesome to very enjoyable, and that's the first one and the last one. The other ones, I don't care.
Yeah, that
Personally.
SummerSlam match with him and Brock was crazy.
Yeah, again, when you pull out a tractor and you just kind of destroy the ring,
Yeah.
like that's gonna capture my attention.
You know,
So it's like
I thought
good
that
on them for doing that.
I thought that night Roman was gonna lose. And you know, another thing that you said Jay could cut a great promo. I really agree with that, because there was a promo that he cut when Gunther said that he was gonna put Jey Uso through 12 weeks of hell, and he said, "Well, Gunther, then I'm gonna go through the valley of the shadow of death and fear no evil." Like, that was a great line that Jey Uso said, and I just think that they don't give him enough credit as he deserves. Because yeah, I mean, like, his rise in WWE, like probably over the past like 2 years, I would say probably over the past 12 months, has been absolutely insane. Now, I do want to switch a little bit of gears, because I know you are a wrestling fan. Now, you said that you've been watching since 2003. Do you play the games?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right. Now, this could be interesting, because I have been playing the WWE games. So I have been getting them consistently since 2010. I have played the older ones.
Okay.
I've played 2008. I played a little bit of 9. I've played SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, Here Comes the Pain. I do want to ask, what is your favorite? Because I don't want to ask what's your favorite WWE game of all time, because I feel like there's a lot, and there's a lot of like different kind of series that have like came out. So I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite 2K WWE game, and then what's your favorite non-2K WWE game?
Okay. So favorite 2K game. Usually like the story mode is what gets me. Like,
Right.
I'm just like, I need to buy for the story mode. Let's see. I did pick up 2K25. It's very good. Sooner or later they just kind of start blending together, better for worse. Uh, I'd say for a 2K game, it's either 2014 or 2019. And that's the one with The Rock on the cover and AJ Styles on the cover. Like those. My favorite non 2K20 game, or 2K game, would be either SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 or Day of Reckoning 2.
Wow.
Now, Day of Reckoning 2 is the GameCube
Yeah.
game that came out the same year. So we were eating good in 2005.
So
But I just really enjoyed the gameplay, best submission system in my opinion. Day of Reckoning 2.
I also did pick up a copy of WWE 2K25. I think it's really good, and I want to come back to 2K25. So so I'm gonna get this out of the way. My favorite WWE game, not 2K, and it's my favorite, and it's a hill that I will die on. I know a lot of people love it. SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. I love that game like to the bottom of everything in my body, because I think the Road to WrestleMania with all the characters that you could do is awesome. It's the first ever game where you get universe mode, and I think the universe mode back then was really fun. And I think that was the first year with, I think, some kind of community creation, so I think it was fun. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. But I think in terms of 2K, look, I've played every single one of them. 2K19 is really, really fun, because I think the story, especially with like AJ and like Shinsuke being in my career, I think it's fun. But I think my favorite 2K game, if not 2K25, is probably 2K16, because I think the career mode had a really, really in-depth career, and especially the titles you could win. An honorable mention that I will say is SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. I think, in my opinion, it has one of the best general manager modes of all time. I know 2006 and 7 are up there. I will give those games the praise, because I know they are very good. I want to go to 2K25. In my opinion, I think 2K really nailed it with this one. I think there are some issues. Like, I'm not a big online guy, so like I get the island. I get they want to have, fun, and the people that play online religiously, like, that's fun for them. But like, I think I haven't played a lot of My Rise, but I've heard that the My Rise is pretty good, and like the GM mode they did impact a lot. I've played a little bit of it. I'm excited to go in the multiplayer. I think that would be fun. And then I've been playing. I have a YouTube channel, and I started this new series. It's called My Universe Roulette. It has a lot of rules. It's very chaotic. I'm having so much fun with Universe mode right now. It is it's a pleasant surprise of how good it is.
Yeah, 2K25. I mostly was playing My Rise. Just because this year, and I'm gonna refrain from spoilers because you're still going through it. But there are a numerous amount of pathways where it's like it's very replayable, as opposed to other years where it's like it just seems like you're just stuck to one story and then
Yeah,
you're kind of done.
yeah,
Which is what I enjoy. I like the whole choose your own adventure thing. And for GM mode, they definitely upgraded it a lot. I like how you're not limited to uh like a select amount of people at the start. Like now it's just like a lot more people
yeah.
where it's like it's basically everybody. So it's just like it makes everything a little bit more with variety. And yeah, so I've been like trucking through that a little bit, and it's very fun. It's very fun. They add little things here and there every year. The only downside is it just kind of seems like every year just kind of seems like it's interchangeable. Just the cover athlete's a little different. Like I think last year 2K24 that was Cody, and then the year before was Cena. I'm just going by the cover athletes, and then Ray. Then it just like kind of gets fuzzy after that.
I
But
Yeah. I actually bought the 2K24 Deluxe Edition with Rhea and Bianca because it was like the first time ever that like just only women were gonna be on it. That's why I bought it because first of all the cover I thought was awesome, but I really
yeah.
liked what it stood for. I love Rhea probably a lot more than I should. And Bianca has really grown on me for the past, especially like back then when I bought the game. Um, yeah, man, the games are fun. Do you so obviously I feel like, your main audience is wrestling and there's no shame about it. Do you play any other games outside of WWE?
Let's see. Pokemon, I'll play.
Okay.
Uh, Ace Attorney, I'll play. Smash Bros, I'll play. Uh, Trying to think what else
So
that I'm
you
playing
so you're a
currently.
Nintendo guy, huh?
Yeah, Nintendo. Usually Sonic, I'll play.
Okay.
But yeah, that's usually my crux that I'll
Yeah.
stick to.
Are you what console other I'm assuming probably Switch, but are you like PlayStation, Xbox,
Yeah.
PC?
So I'm more of a PlayStation guy.
Okay. That
Like yeah, PlayStation. If I was gonna choose between PlayStation, Xbox, PC, I'm usually PlayStation.
right. Yeah, I'm PlayStation, so like no harm, no foul. But I mean,
Yeah.
with the directions of everything going, I think it's absolutely insane. I would ask because I've asked every single person that I've interviewed so far. And I want to keep rolling with it. Have you? Because the way I want to ask this question is, what have you ever been to like a premium live event for WWE? And if so, what was your favorites and how many have you been to?
See, for WWE specifically, let's see, I've been to, yeah, I think that's right. I've been to three like PLEs pay-per-views for WWE. Those were Great American Bash 2008, the Royal Rumble 2008, and Fatal 4-Way 2010.
Okay, so I just got goosebumps. Royal Rumble 2008 was probably fantastic to go to, and I'm very jealous because like that pop for Cena was probably insane. Um,
Mhm.
I've been to a couple, so a lot of pay per views don't come to Columbus, Ohio, very much, and that's where I'm kind of close to. Um, I've been. I feel like other than the past two pay per views that I've been to, all of them they were out to get me. I feel like they didn't want me to have a good time. I went to the No Mercy when it was, I believe,
Oh
AJ
yeah,
Styles, John Cena, and Dean Ambrose.
yeah.
I went to Money in the Bank where Sheamus won.
Yeah. Okay.
That was not a fun time because everybody was, oh, the crowd was something that night. I've been to Extreme Rules where Finn Balor fell off the turnbuckle.
Oh, when the Wrath of God happened,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. For my 21st birthday, I went. Me and my fiance went to Survivor Series in Chicago, War Games, when CM Punk came back, and that's probably the best I ever went to. I did go to SummerSlam in Cleveland last year, and SummerSlam in Cleveland was really good. The takeaway is probably when Dom betrayed Rhea, or like that Bailey and Nia match, highly underrated.
Mhm.
Like that might have been match of the night. I thought that was fantastic.
Uh, don't remember the SummerSlam match up well. I remember I was watching their rematch of Bad Blood in like a watch along party in the city the first time ever
Right.
I ever done that. But for SummerSlam this year, I'm trying to remember the card. It's been so much. I just remember like everybody just like during the Cody and Roman solo match, everyone just kind of looking to the to the entranceway
Yeah.
because people were expecting Roman.
So
But
there.
yeah, those are all good. Like but yeah, I was gonna say the No Mercy with Ambrose Styles and Cena. I remember that fondly because the reason why they put that on first was to beat it before I believe, the presidential election. I believe.
Yeah.
So they decided to go on first. That was also the Dolph and Miz match too, which I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No. So the SummerSlam. It was. I do. It's a little blurry, but it was. It was Logan Paul versus LA Knight. It was Logan Paul doing that absolutely insane moonsault to the outside. It was the Bailey Nia, and then it was. I think it was Priest and Balor, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was.
Oh, Priest and Gunther, yeah,
Yes.
Priest
Oh.
and Gunther, because
So,
that's where
yeah.
Gunther won, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where Finn Balor turned. Yeah, that was also that was. But no, man, like it's if you had to induct anybody, like if somebody walked up to you and said, "Hey, man, I want to get into wrestling," is there a match that you're like, "Okay, you want to get into wrestling? Go watch this match."
Let's see. Uh, I'll probably go with Christian versus Randy Orton over the limit 2011.
No, what really? That is that's really interesting that you say that. I really liked their feud. A lot of people did not like it because it was one more match, one more match, one more match. But like,
Hmm.
I thought Randy and Christian, their feud, I thought it was great.
I think in ring wise, they had better chemistry than Cena and Punk.
Really?
Yeah, I think their feud gets overlooked because Cena and Punk was happening at the same time. But if you look at every single one of Christian and Randy Orton matches, all of them, like if you watch them chronologically, they counter like counters that were specifically for like the matches previously. And I know a lot of people weren't a fan of that because Christian, who worked so long to be
Right.
world champion, lost it within a couple days, which sucked. Sucked seeing as a fan. I remember my friend, he's a big Christian fan, and we were so excited. And then he texted me because SmackDown taped on Tuesdays at that time. And then he texted me saying he's like, dude, I'm pissed. I'm like, what happened? I'm just like, yeah, I'm like, did Christian drop the like? I didn't know what happened. I was like, did Christian drop the title? I was just like throwing everything at the and he's like, yeah, to Randy Orton, and he got like so pissed, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. And but the thing is, it's like Christian, in my opinion, like in ring wise, like he is like his in ring psychology is up there with like the greats. Like you want to pick like a Shawn Michaels, a Bret Hart, like Christian is like that dude. Like so much so that when Sean was in NXT teaching like the beginners class, like Sean had to like fill in a replacement and Christian was that guy to teach the beginners. Like so Christian is like amazing in my opinion. And him like having Randy like see like this is probably the most moves like Randy's done in the move because it's like he did angle slam, he did the Billy Goat's curse. He does moves back then that he doesn't do now because one he doesn't need to do it now, but it's like that's a match where it's like classic babyface versus babyface, but it's like you don't want to boo either or. So it's
Yeah.
like I definitely recommend like seeing that match.
So see, this is a topic that I'm not familiar with, and you were probably around when this whole topic. There was a really big thing on wrestling TikTok probably about 6 to 7 months ago, and it was you're not a wrestling fan if you don't watch promotions outside of WWE. I don't know if you're familiar with that, with how everything was. So I'm just gonna make this known. I don't watch AEW. It's not because I don't think what they're doing is good. It's not that I don't like Tony Khan or I have anything against AEW. It's just I feel like I just feel like WWE. I have been watching it for so long, and I don't think especially over AEW. I don't think what they're doing isn't professional. But I've been watching, I guess, WWE for so long that I feel like it would be kind of more so difficult for me to go watch another promotion, especially with guys like John Moxley or Swerve Strickland. And I'm not so much a blood and I don't like to see a lot of blood, especially after that horrible John Moxley spot that happened. I see AEW stuff. I see what they're doing. I see that they push a lot of guys that WWE didn't get the chance, and I'm fairly grateful for that. But I also see a lot of guys flop. As much as I hate to say this, but I don't know what the hell AEW is doing with Ricochet. Like I said, I don't watch AEW. I don't see a lot of it, so I feel like my opinion isn't necessarily valid to most. But like I see behind the scenes and like what AEW is doing with Ricochet. I don't understand it, or I don't understand a lot of things. Do you watch AEW?
Yes.
Wow. Do you enjoy the product?
With the product, it's like anything, even with WWE, it's like
Right.
there are pros and cons that I like. There are things that I like, there are things that I don't like, but at the same time, it's like the things like they're allowed to express themselves however they want, because it's an alternative, and
Right.
it's just like they can do whatever they want with that. Like I wasn't crazy about the Moxley spot, but it's at the same time I'm like, well, it's like we asked for an alternative. This is the alternative, to WWE. I was more offended that it took 9 people to run in during that match. Like that's what got me because I'm like that's a lot of things.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like AEW has done a lot of good. Like the whole Ricochet thing, I've actually been a fan of, just because he's
Wow.
been getting more character development as a wrestler and just like as a person compared to WWE. Because WWE, he didn't really have character. He was the high flying guy, and here he's more of that smug, like cocky guy with a personality. When before in WWE, he didn't have any personality.
Right.
Like he's been U.S. champion, IC champion. I can't tell you what he's done, like with those championships when he had them. I could tell you like more what he's doing in AEW and what like kind of stories he's been a part of comparatively. I think the only story I remember him being in WWE is Logan Paul,
Yeah.
because like that. Like, that's probably his biggest high-profile story, along with the Brock match, and we don't talk about that.
Yeah. That's yeah.
But with yeah, with AEW, it's just like there are things I enjoy. I've been to AEW pay-per-views. I've been to World's End. I've been to the Forbidden Door with Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay, and I'm just like, oh wow, this is cool. And my friend texted me, and he's not he likes AEW. He's not as big as an AEW fan as like a WWE fan. But he just goes to me. He's like, I think that's the best match we've ever seen live. I'm like, yeah, I think I agree with you on that. Just because it's like the vibe in AEW show is so much different from a
Yeah.
WWE show. And it's just like, because I went to the first Saturday night's main event when they came back, where
Okay.
it's just like it was the Cody Kevin match, and it's like you could kind of feel the difference between the crowds,
Right.
and and it's like sometimes you want a different vibe. It's like, look, it's like I love my vanilla ice cream. Sometimes I want to go and like get some chocolate.
Right. Yeah.
And with that, it's like, am I gonna agree with every decision that WWE or AEW makes? No, absolutely not. But with fandoms in wrestling, it's just like you are allowed to watch and like different promotions, whether you like a performer. And I always say, like, you always want to like be fans of the performer,
Yeah.
and support their careers, and just kind of like, if I can't follow the promotion religiously, I'll at least follow like what they're doing, because it's like you support the wrestlers that are trying to at least make way and have a career out of it. In terms of like, you're not a real wrestling fan if you don't watch many different promotions, I think that's false,
Yeah.
because WWE is a lot of content. You have Monday, you have Tuesday, you have Evolve, which is on Wednesday if you want to check that out. You have SmackDown on Fridays, maybe a PLE. It's like Now we're at a point where wrestling is on every day of the week, where it wasn't like that when I was growing up as a wrestling fan. It was Raw, SmackDown, maybe you'll see Heat and Velocity on the weekends. But it was all just WWE stuff. Now there's more options, and before we didn't have any options like back then. But now it's just like if you just want to watch WWE, yeah, you're a fan. You're a fan of
Yeah,
wrestling. Those guys and girls are wrestling within the ring, and are you going to be like do you need to be the most diverse to be a fan? No, absolutely. If you just like one style, yeah, that's fine. It's like, who am I to tell people you're not a fan? Because I don't control like who and who isn't a fan. Like, I'm not the leader.
right.
I've had some people in my comments that go oh, you're not a true fan. I'm like, what does that even mean?
Yeah,
What do you mean true fan? Am I a predetermined fan? A
yeah.
false fan? Like, what are you trying to say? It's like like the wrestling space, and this is just like any fandom in general. Like, there are people who are going to come in arrogantly, and I understand because people can be insecure about fandom. Because let's face it, professional wrestling fans, like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, we weren't very like you couldn't really be open with your professional wrestling
Right.
fandom. And so you're very like people are going to be very defensive of it. But sometimes there are people who are just like so engrossed in that one fandom that they forget to come up for air, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I could actually act like an actual person,"
So,
And I feel like people lose themselves within that.
so this is I'm gonna reach deep into the bag with this one. So, like I said, it was nothing against AEW. I have watched one AEW live, and it was when CM Punk came back. I feel like that's kind of for obvious reasons. But there's nothing against AEW. It's just I do prefer watching WWE. It's like I said, nothing against them. However, it wasn't technically a promotion. A lot of people don't know who this is, but there is a wrestler by the name of Fuego del Sol in AEW that, if people don't know, which you might exactly know where I'm going with this, he used to be known as Cage. I don't know if you remember, but him and a lot of his buddies did backyard wrestling. It was called KBW. I loved that so much. I don't know why. I always thought, because I used to do that, right? I used to do backyard wrestling. I used to do trampoline wrestling with my friends.
Right.
So when I saw KBW, I was like, wow, that's so cool. And then when I heard he wanted to go more pro, and he went to, did some stuff on the indies, and then when I heard Fuego del Sol got, was going to AEW, I was like, that's crazy. Like, that's nuts. So, or like DPW, for example. I watched that because I was a big Chris Danger fan. You know, when I was a kid, I would, I'm almost 23, but like when I was like, 10 years ago, I used to watch Dan Cops all the time, and I see him doing stuff now. Like there's, BD, Brandon Collins, like he was on TNA in the crowd, and he just wrestled AJ Francis not so long ago. Like it's really nuts to see like these people that you grew up watching doing what they love, and I think that's nuts. I think that's crazy.
Hmm. Yeah, especially because it's like I've watched Dank Ops when I was growing up too, and like Danger, like just like the Danger series, and like, oh, this is pretty cool, making his own lore, and it's like I said, it's like follow the wrestler, not the promotion. You know what
Right.
I mean? And it's like you're following these people's different journeys, whether it's YouTube, whether it's backyard wrestling, whether it's from one company to another. It's like you're seeing their evolution
Yeah.
before your eyes. It's like for me when Cody Rhodes debuted, I was like, all right, that's my guy. I don't know why, but that's my guy. And then Cody, it's like you go through the ups, the downs, like the Stardust, the mustaches, the dashing, the undashing, and then like he leaves, then he goes to New Japan. I'm like, all right, let's see what's going on over here, and then it's like, oh, he's at Ring of Honor. Oh, cool, let me check that out. It's like, and you're following like these journeys, and it's just like different chapters of like a person's book, and then it culminates to WrestleMania
Right.
40, and you feel like you're like, oh man, that's like really fulfilling to be a fan. On the flip side, I was also a big Dolph Ziggler fan. So it's like I don't really take anything too personally when it comes to people that are losing. It's like the thing is, it's like I do have my favorites, but at the same time, it's like from a company's standpoint, whether it's WWE, AEW, I can understand like where they're coming from in terms of okay, they view wrestling a certain way.
Right.
Like not my favorite isn't always going to be on top. I can't expect 10 people that I like to be the champion at the same time. you know.
Yeah, right.
But it's like I
But
can't support where it's just like like with Drew McIntyre, like a lot of people were saying, "Oh, he's not a title picture. He's in a feud with Damian Priest, like this, that." I'm just like, I'm like, you know what? Let me let this cook a little bit because it's like I like Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest. He's doing some good stuff.
yeah,
So let's see what's going on. And it's just been like on site with them, and I think their match has potential to be the sleeper match of the weekend. You know, because
yeah,
it's just two big dudes, two athletic big dudes who have history together and like we're just gonna see them like go at it. I'm just like,
yeah.
you know what? It's like it's not the position I would pick for Drew, but I'm just like, you know what? It's like he's gonna knock it out of the park and crush it.
So there's a couple points that you did say that I want to go back to. So first of all, you did bring up Dolph Ziggler. Here's the thing. One of the things that I gotta disagree with you is Dolph Ziggler. And my, I don't know if you're gonna help me settle this. I don't know if this is a debate or a universal truth among wrestling fans. And I get it. Everyone's like, "Oh, Seth Rollins had the greatest cash in of all time at WrestleMania 31 when he cashed in on Roman and Brock." I think, and I want to say it's a fact, but obviously people have their, they have their opinions. I think Dolph Ziggler's cash in was the greatest cash in of all time. I saw it live. I was jumping out of my seat. The way the crowd goes, like, with him. Like, I watched an interview. I think it was Chris Van Vliet. Everybody knows and loves. I did an interview with, or I watched an interview with him, and Dolph Ziggler said that he actually had the idea of he wanted to go out and he wanted the crowd to think that he was getting, oh, it's just a regular Dolph Ziggler match. But then, like, when he twisted the ankle when he got, in the cross arm breaker and then he won, I mean, classic.
Hmm. Yeah, I put that as my number one as well.
Yeah.
Uh, because like one big Dolph Ziggler fan, like for me, it's like you could interchange like three of them, and that's Dolph, Seth Rollins, and Edge's first cash in. Like I feel like those three are very interchangeable when it comes to just cashing in. If you want to put them at one, I wouldn't argue with that. With Seth Rollins, it was like, oh, cool. That was like very unexpected because no one wanted Brock to win, no one wanted Roman to
Right.
win. So how do we fix that? You had the ultimate solution right there. So I wouldn't blame anybody if they picked Seth as number one. But with Dolph, it was just like, yeah, you expected it because it's like when Del Rio's in the corner, with like the ankle injury, and then you hear like Dolph's like music. Like the energy in that building was so like loud and so long
Right.
that it's like it got you pumped up. It's like taking if you go to the gym and it's like you take a thing of pre-workout, it's like that's the feeling you got when Dolph like came out to cash in Money in the Bank.
I could.
And because it was just like Dolph said, it's just like he wanted people to think it's like, oh my god, they're going to screw him again,
Yeah.
because Dolph was the guy where it's just like we want him here, but for whatever reason the company's just gonna keep him at this safe point because that's where they're comfortable with it. But it's like they just floored it and they gave Dolph his moment, and that's all it was meant to be, unfortunately. But it's like, man, what a moment! What
Yeah.
a moment just for Dolph and just like that energy in general.
I get goosebumps talking about it. I don't get goosebumps talking about a lot of things, but wrestling gives me goosebumps. Like, wrestling is one of those things. Like, every time I look back when CM Punk came back at Survivor Series, I get goosebumps. I get goosebumps watching the Dolph Ziggler match. Like, there's not a lot of matches, but there are matches in wrestling that I just get absolute chills from. And I want to ask, so is there a superstar? Now it doesn't have to be super detailed. It doesn't have to be. I'm just kind of curious. Is there a superstar, whether AEW or not in WWE anymore, whether like retired or they just, I don't want to say retired, but they left WWE. Like, is there one superstar where you're like, okay, or two, it could be male or female, it doesn't matter, that if they came back to the company today under Triple H in the new environment, that you're like, I think they could do something. It doesn't have to be a lot, but add something to, the mid card division, the world heavyweight division, the tag division. Like, is there a superstar where you're like, I think they could do something if they came back?
Athena, who wrestled as Ember Moon in WWE,
Okay,
if you remember
I
her.
do remember Ember Moon. Yes.
She's had a yeah, she has had a generational run within Ring of Honor. She's like the forever champ there, held the title for like longer than Roman Reigns, pretty much. And it's just like There's a lot of people in that like late 2010s to 2020 era of WWE that got lost in the shuffle because the transition from NXT to the main roster wasn't the cleanest because
Right,
it's like the head of church head of state thing where it's like one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing, where it's just like you have like this person who has a bunch of potential, but then you get called in the main roster. It's like, oh no, I see you right here
right,
in this position, right over here. It's like, and that happens sometimes.
yeah,
Where it's just like you're in like the farmer system, and then it's like, all right, you're in the minor leagues, you're getting great rapport, but then it's like, all right, now you're gonna play this position, even though you played this position for a long time. But it's like we
right,
need this person here. And so I think Athena Ember Moon like would be a great place to return to WWE to be in a better position under Triple H. But to be honest, it's like she's crushing it at
yeah.
Ring of Honor
I'm
and potentially AEW in the future. So it's like she doesn't need to go back if she doesn't want to. But it's like she would bring a lot to WWE. In terms of the guys. I'm trying to think there's a lot of like really cool talent like Swerve's another one where it's like Swerve even though he said he wasn't like a big Triple H guy, but Shawn Michaels really liked him. So it's like give or take with that, but it's like he proved
right,
everyone wrong,
right.
so good
Oh,
on him for
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. 100%. I didn't watch a lot of
So yeah.
I didn't watch a lot of Hit Row or like when Swerve was the thing.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna throw a couple of names
Right.
at you because, like I said,
Mhm.
I'm not nowhere near wrestling encyclopedia, but I remember guys that probably shouldn't be remembered, and I'm gonna throw out just a couple of names that I think maybe could do well. So, Evan Bourne, I sometimes go back just so I could play as Evan Bourne when he was in the WWE games. I love Evan Bourne so much. I thought that him like Air Boom with Kofi Kingston. I mean, like I loved them as a tag team. I really did like Evan Bourne. Do I think he would do much, especially like in today's WWE? No, not really. But I think he could add something maybe to the mid card division because he never did win a mid card. I don't think he won a mid card championship, which was kind of
Yep.
upsetting. Caitlyn was another one. I thought Caitlyn was awesome.
That's a good one.
Um,
Mhm.
I think now, especially with the bigger names and like especially with Punk being back, and I don't think AJ will come back, but like it is a never say never. And AJ and Caitlyn actually just
Mhm.
reunited not too long ago. They posted like a
Mhm.
picture
Yeah.
which I thought was really fun. But like in terms of a lot of guys, Alex Riley is one of them. I know Alex Riley doesn't get, he had his run with the Miz. I really loved it, and then I think he left, and then he came back like 2016 to like 28. That like really weird run that he had in like NXT Black and Gold, and then when he was like a commentator.
Yeah.
Alex
Mhm.
Riley was one of them. I just think there's a lot of underused guys that if they came back now, it'd be different. I don't know if you remember Ezekiel Jackson. I thought he was great. I think him coming
Yeah.
back, like now, I don't think any of these guys will come back, but like him coming back,
Yeah.
fighting in like the mid card division, I think that would just be really fun to see
Mhm.
these guys that didn't get the chance back then to come now. I think that would be fun.
Mhm. Yeah, Alex Riley was a big one like that. I think he had huge potential.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things where it's like sometimes where and like sometimes like you make the wrong people mad, and unfortunately he was the kind of like victim of that,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. See, yeah, with Caitlyn, she was at a time where and it was the same like where the Divas division before it became the women's division
Right.
where it's like once you won the Divas title once, you're back to obscurity. And that was unfortunate because like before that, like Eve left when she dropped it to Caitlyn. When Caitlyn dropped the championship, then like she was gone shortly after. And it was just like not like a hot potato, but it's like all right, you get your turn. All right, you get your turn. And it's like then you have to wait in line like behind like 8 to 10 other female stars, and that shouldn't be like that. There should have been more variety with the women in general, and like thankfully we're at a point where people are getting more and more FaceTime. Is it perfect? No, but it's like it's better than it was back then.
Right. Um. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Look, man. First and foremost, I want to say this has been a lot of fun. Especially with me trying to grow in 2025 and reaching out to either really really big content creators or like really really not a lot bigger than me, right? So like really really big ones or like the ones that have a good following. It's been really fun to talk to them. To I've been a passionate WWE fan pretty much all my life. And speaking to people that have the same interest as me, because like I could go talk to my friends that kind of watch it here and there, but they don't have as the knowledge as I know some like yourself and some people others do. So I think it's really really fun to connect with people who have the same interest. And with me doing a couple of these interviews, I've had a lot of fun. It's been great. So I want to thank you for taking the time to do this with me. I do want to ask, so a lot of interviewers and a lot of people that interview wrestling fans and in general, they have a question that they ask at the end of every interview. Like, for example, we all know Chris Van Vliet, and he asks, three things you're grateful for, right? I think that's great. I think asking somebody a question at the end is great. So I've done this. I think I've done this twice, and I want to ask you because positivity is such a big part of my life. There was and not to turn this in a really weird direction, but there was a time in my life where I was lost and wrestling kind of got me out, seeing the people, have fun and seeing everything. And it doesn't have to be wrestling related, but there was, it was a dark time in my life, and I had friends, I had family, and I had wrestling, and I had, video games to go to. I just want to ask, is there a time, it doesn't have to be anything with wrestling, it could be anything at all, but is there a time in your life where you look back to and you're like, you know what, no matter what anybody says, that moment, I was happy? Like, is there a time where you can look back and you're like, you know what, that was a really good moment?
Let's see. It's funny because it's like I always try to live each day to the fullest because we're not guaranteed tomorrow,
Right.
and it's just one of those things where I'm just blessed. I'm blessed with just everything that's happening. I'll say like a recent one, and this is kind of wrestling related, but it's like my TikTok recently passed 10K followers, and it was one of those things. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it's like when you're first starting, seems very far fetched, where it's just like, because if you don't, there's no blueprint on like how to gain traction within social media. There's no blueprint on if I do XYZ, then I'm guaranteed success.
Right.
uh for for me, it's just more like, all right, let's like stay consistent, let's do some trial and error. Not everything's going to be perfect. Don't strive for perfection, just strive for today.
Right.
And it was one of those things where it's like my friend, she messaged me saying, she's like, oh, you hit 10K. And it was just one of those things where it's like you don't process right away because
Right.
it doesn't sound real, and it's just like one of those things. It's like like I sat down and I just went to myself, I'm like, oh wow, you did that thing.
Yeah.
You did the thing where it's like like you thought you saw yourself going there, but now it's here.
Right.
And it's just like a wild thing where it's just like you're now at a point where it's like, okay, now you're here.
Yeah.
Now let's go to the next thing.
Right.
It's like the work's never done. It's like I'm very bad at just like
Right.
not working on like whether it's content or just like work in general. Like I'm really bad at like taking it slow. But like for like after that happened, I like sat like by myself for about 5-10 minutes, just kind of relaxed, and I was like, man, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And then after those 5-10 minutes were up, I'm like, all right, back to work.
Look, man, I want to congratulate you. That even, I mean, that's a great answer. Hitting 10K. I could never imagine it. With me, like one of the things that I always give advice, and obviously, you don't need it. You're doing great, and I'm very happy for you and all your success. But one of the things that I learned being, I guess, a content creator is you never want to look. I love wrestling, I do, but you never want to. If you want to be able to be known for a lot of things, you never want to stick to one thing. So, like right now on my YouTube channel, I'm playing Assassin's Creed Shadows. That game has been getting so much mixed reviews, it's not even crazy. But then I wanted to do something of my own. So I started this WWE 2K Universe Roulette series, and it has set rules, and I'm not going to, bore you with all the details, but essentially what I do is I start with a GMO drafted roster or a drafted roster because I don't want to go into universe mode and I don't want to pick, I don't want to just have it be pick the top guys. So like I feel like GM mode is kind of the most random that I can get without going on, the internet. So I start with a GMO drafted roster, and there in the WWE game, I think there's like 11 months because it's, I believe, May to April. So, there's 11 months. So what I do is I start with a GMO drafted roster, and I'm allowed up to 3 acquirements per calendar month. So I'm allowed to sign somebody, I'm allowed to trade somebody. I could sign 2 people, trade 2 people, and like that's it. So like I can sign 1 person, trade 2 guys, sign 3 guys, no trades, and it's challenging, but it's also fun. Like last year, I started it with 2K24. I did it right after the Royal Rumble, so I think I ended the series with like 15 guys on the roster, and I had to make a WrestleMania. But in WrestleMania, I did all 3 brands because I do all 3 brands. So that was very interesting. I wanted to do something on my own, and it's been doing pretty well. I've been gaining some attention, so like I agree with you, and I think what you're doing is awesome. I am gonna end this. I do want to talk to you after. So guys, I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Please go show the love. Go follow Richie on TikTok. Go check out his podcast. I'm gonna be tuning in. I do follow him, so please go and spread the love, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Through the highways, and